absolutely prime condition for today's crucial practice session to decide the grid for tomorrow's British Grand Prix. We had the expected rain shower this morning. It wasn't enough even to wash the circuit totally clean, but it seems to have moved on. Although the sky is a bit overcast and dull, the track is dry. It's going to be very quick indeed, and we're faced with this prospect of a resolution here this afternoon of the needle match between Nelson Piquet and Nigel Mansell. Mansell has had 5 pole positions out of 6 races this year. Is Nelson Piquet going to take it away from him here at Silverstone? Well, we'll soon see.
Thanks, Murray. So the car's going out for a warm-up, and then we'll be seeing live the practice.
Of the 60-minute final practice session, and there you see Nigel Mansell leading his teammate Nelson Piquet. Now let's get the situation straight right from the beginning. Nelson Piquet was fastest in the time practice yesterday at a speed of 158 miles an hour, faster than the previous lap record, and in second position behind him was Nigel Mansell, with Prost in third position and Senna fourth. And now those then are the target times that they are going for.
Yes, and straight away Mansell has shown that he means business on his 4th flying lap. He improved on his time of yesterday, which also was quicker than Nelson Piquet yesterday. So Mansell now heads the field, as you see him still motoring hard. Flat out right from the beginning of the session to get his time early, a philosophy with which I would agree. When the track's clean, not time for anybody to drop any oil on it and things like that, and at least get a time posted on the board, and that's exactly what he's done.
Now, these 2 Williams cars in practice yesterday were not quite head and shoulders above the rest, but the 3rd fastest was Alain Prost, and his time was a second slower than Nelson Piquet's. There's terrific rivalry between Mansell and Piquet. Mansell has won 2 Grand Prix this year. Now, look for this digital readout. The fastest time so far, Nigel Mansell, 1 minute 7.6.
That's the new corner that was built as a safety measure to slow the cars down before Woodcut. That's the old Woodcut corner. Mansell crosses the line, 7.9. So he hasn't improved at the moment. The time he's set, the target for himself and everybody else, is 1 minute 7.559 seconds. Just marginally quicker than Nelson Piquet's time of yesterday, which was 1:7.596, so there's only a couple of hundredths in it.
And you see that Mansell has slowed down now, and he's let the arrows that was following him through ahead, and he's now on his way towards Beckett's Chapel and then down the very fast Hanger Straight, which they do some 200 miles an hour down.
Yes, he'll be slowing it right down now in order to cool the tyres down. Each car gets only 2 sets of tyres for the qualifying session. The tyres are marked, and there is Senna. We picked Senna up. It looks to me as if he's on a quick lap. Remember that he's got a big gaggle of cars in front of him. If they're not looking in their mirrors, he's going to have to abort this lap, because the moment you have to overtake somebody or veer off the main racing line, your chances of doing a quick time are pretty much gone. And it looks as if Senna has duly aborted the lap.
Not nearly as much of a problem as it was last year, when they had different compounds of tyres for qualifying, which wore out very quickly. They could do about 3 laps, only one of which would be at pole position speed. This is the new chicane at Silverstone. Instead of going straight on to Woodcote and then round the kink, they now have a second gear left-hand bend, which goes into the right-hander that you were looking at a moment ago. They go through that at second gear at about 85 miles an hour. And here's Senna. Now he will be building up speed. He's got past everybody except the Tyrrell, and I don't think he'll have any problem in doing that.
No, he's on a quick one. He's definitely on a quick one. He gave it the full boot out of the new chicane complex, and so far he's managed his lap unmolested. It is very difficult in Grand Prix qualifying to get clear laps, and to do a really quick time, you must get a clear run.
Passing
and
it.
His own teammate there, Nakajima, lets him go. And although they're not using special qualifying tyres this year, the tyres are still quickest in their first 3 laps or so of life. So you've got to get your quick one in then. Senna right on the limit, using all the roads, swinging out wide. absolutely flat out, burning up to over 200 miles an hour. And then hard on the brakes down into the new corner, down into second gear, slowest corner on the circuit, and then booting it back into the old Woodcote corner. So, aiming at 1.7.5, but he's not there. 1.8.7, and that will not improve on his yesterday's time.
So it's still Mansell fastest, Piquet second fastest from yesterday. There is Mansell waiting to go out again. Prost third fastest. Teo Fabi was fourth fastest until I was starting to say it. He's now fifth because Senna, that you have just seen going round, is now fourth quickest. Mansell, Piquet, Prost, Senna, Fabi and Teo Boutsen in the second Benetton, and they are going much better today as you look at Satoru Nakajima, the Japanese driver, and now at Senna.
Yes, and Senna, I was wrong, Senna did improve his time, and as Murray pointed out, that moved him up a place. He'd been bumped down already today. Prost is yet to go out onto the track, and is Senna trying to get a second quick lap on the trot? It looks very much like it.
Faster today than they were yesterday. Nigel Mansell, Senna, who is in fourth position, Fabi, who is fifth, that's Mansell in the pits. Johansson has moved up to eighth position in the McLaren. Nannini is quicker, Dana is quicker, Campos is quicker, and Cappy is quicker. Now, watch Nelson Piquet, because at the end of this lap, he is going for a quick one, trying to get his first pole position of 1987, and you can see how low the ride height is on the Williams from the sparks that are pluming out from the back of the car, from the skid plates underneath it. Now, Piquet will be going across the line now. He's at second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth gear. His lap starts now into Copse. He has done 1 minute 7.559. I think he was held up just a fraction of a second there by the Tyrrell.
Yes, maybe he seemed to get past all right. This is very critical. He's got to get the tyres just at the right level of performance, which involves warming them up quite slowly and then getting them hot over the last half of the lap before you start the quick one. There he goes in a very quick Stowe corner, short squirt down the straight to Club corner. Now on to full power, blasting up to over 200 miles an hour as he comes under the bridge. The brakes on just as he comes under the bridge for the new corner.
20 pole positions in his career already. This is the new chicane, the second gear left-hander, now the right. And his target, Nigel Mansell, 1 minute 7 seconds, 0.559. Over the line goes Nelson Piquet. And as you see, that is not quick enough, 7.986.
Looks to me as if he's staying on another quick one, though. He still seems to be. No, he slowed it down.
We can be pretty sure that as Nigel Mansell sits impassively in his car, having his front suspension adjusted, we can be pretty sure that both the Tyrrells are going to be on the front row. But Prost may just get up there as well, or maybe one of the Benettons. Now, this is very interesting. These are the electrically heated tyre warmers being removed from the tyres. They will be virtually at racing speeds, racing temperatures.
Right, what you see now, Mansell's got a new set of tyres on. That'll probably be his second set. And when he does go out, he may wait. No, he's obviously ready to make his run now, and that's quite sensible timing, because a lot of cars have now come into the pits. They've done their early run, and the track is relatively empty. So Mansell has been sitting there waiting for the others to come in to get a nice clear track, or as clear a track as possible. He's got new tyres on, and I would imagine that if everything's ready and he's happy with the car, this will be his big effort lap coming up.
You probably noticed that the tyre sidewalls have got a hand-painted figure 5 on them. That's because each driver is allowed just 2 sets of tyres, and they mark the tyres with the driver's racing number to make sure that nobody tries to slip an extra set in. So away goes Nigel Mansell, obviously starting from a standing start. He's going to be building up to speed in this lap, and his target is his own time of 1 minute 7.559. Mansell pole position in Brazil, Belgium, in Monaco, Detroit and France.
Interesting thing is that, as usual, we haven't yet seen Alain Prost out on the circuit. He likes to normally wait till about 20 minutes or so into the session before he goes out.
Well,
so
here...
Mansell coming down short straight between Stowe and Club. That's Nakajima in the Lotus, who's just ahead of him. And here we have a view from onboard Nakajima's car as he goes through Abbey Curve, up to some 200 miles an hour here, and then hard onto the brakes, down through the gearbox. Slow car moves over to let him through.
Jonathan Palmer in the Tyrrell.
And out through Woodcote to complete the lap for Nakajima.
So now into Cox Corner, the 135-mile-an-hour right-hander. Up into 5th gear, watch his hand, it'll come off the steering wheel. Now he'll probably go up into 6th here. And he does. Round the left-hander at Maggots, down towards Beckett's corner, the right-hander. He'll go down through the gearbox into 3rd gear, taking it about 100 miles an hour. He's closing up on what looks like Alio's 3.5-litre Lola in front of him.
Yeah, well, Nakajima slowed right down now. He's on a slow lap. The lap before was his quick one. And you really need to get one shot at it, and then you need to slow down just to cool the tyres off, and maybe run them in again, build them back up to the ideal operating temperature.
Stowe Corner, 150 miles an hour. That's not a rainstorm. You can actually, from a helicopter overhead, actuate a lens washing device. Modern technology par excellence. That was Club Corner. Now he's coming up to the, at 175 miles an hour, racing speed, which he's not doing now. Abbey Curve. That's Nigel Mansell, who's just gone flashing past him. So Mansell's out again. Here he is, 850 horsepower, Honda V6 engine behind him, the Williams all around him, over the line now.
So that's already one quick lap that Nigel's done. He looks like he's trying to string two together on the trot, so we pick him up on the second one. His the lap he's just completed hasn't yet flashed up as being a quicker one on our display of all the times that we were able to look at, so I suspect he didn't improve with that lap, but he's having a go now through Beckett's and then accelerating away onto the Hanger Straight, getting up to 200 miles an hour.
I think he's just building up speed at the present moment, and it's Mansell in pole position at the moment, and so far out of the 60-minute session we have had 17 minutes. So there's still a long time for them to go. Piquet second, the two Williams therefore on the front row of the grid. Alain Prost, who's yet to go out today, in 3rd position. Senna, who has improved on his yesterday's time, is 4th. Theo Fabi is now in 5th position. Gerhard Berger is 6th in the Ferrari, with which he had some handling problems this morning. Boutsen is in 8th position. Alboreto is 7th, Boutsen, and Alboreto is 8th.
And here goes Nigel. Now he took the interim lap to slow down, cool his tyres down, get everything ready, and now he's on another quick one. So right on the limit through Cops, the right-hander, using all the road. He's right up over the curb then, but he won't have taken his foot off the accelerator at all. Keep hard on the power and just let the car ride the curb. Beckett's corner, right-hander in 3rd gear, and then powering away up through the gearbox down onto the Hanger Straight, getting up to 200 miles an hour. And then onto the brakes, knock it down 1 gear as he turns right into Stowe Corner, very, very quick corner, 150 miles an hour. Similar speed now, the next right-hander at Club, long sweeping corners onto full power, and through the left-hand kink at Abbey, which of course is taken absolutely flat out, and then hard on the brakes for the new corner.
And you can see how hard he was trying from the way he ran over the rumble bars. Here to watch him is his great friend golfer Greg Norman. 1:07.559 is the target, and he's done it. Nigel Mansell has improved on his own time and is now 0.8 of a second, which is light years ahead of his teammate Nelson Piquet, who is second on the grid.
Absolutely right. He's made that quite difficult for Nelson to reach, and he'll be well pleased with that, Nigel. Yesterday was, I think, the first qualifying session this year in which Nelson had been quicker than Nigel, and Nigel, I'm sure, have been very keen indeed to get that record put straight. And there is Alain Prost out for the first time. Now, Prost takes standard tactic in these qualifying sessions. He waits till about that as a tactic, only because you can get a shower of rain or oil on the track is the more likely thing if it's a clear day. But things can go wrong, and I would have always thought that it's good to get a time posted early on, so at least you're in there with a score. But far be it from me to question the tactics of such a deep and sensible thinker as Alain Prost.
The fastest lap we have ever had at Silverstone was a couple of years ago, before the chicane was put in at Woodcote, and that was Keke Rosberg, who went round at a whisker over 160 miles an hour. Now, Nigel Mansell, on that quick lap of his, notwithstanding the fact that there's a second gear chicane that wasn't there before, notwithstanding the fact that turbo boost is now limited to 4 bar, notwithstanding the fact that he was on race tyres and not soft qualifiers, went round at 159.10 miles an hour. An amazing drive. And there he is. He's done his lap, back into the pits now, and I can imagine him quietly smiling to himself inside his helmet and saying, try that one on for size, Nelson. And I've no doubt that Nelson will do just that. We're in for some really exciting viewing.
Yes, and Prost out in anger for the first time. He's just done the one lap before to warm his tyres up, but it does look as if he's giving it 100% here. Of course, Prost has a very smooth style. Certainly he is now on his first quick one. I think he'll find it hard to catch the time set by Nigel Mansell. He was some second and a half nearly slower than that yesterday. But we had 2 showers here this morning, and that certainly would have served to wash the track a bit. See the smoke coming from the breather at the back of the car there. That's just the oil breather system. Sparks as they run the ride height so low to get more downforce. The lower you can run the car to the road, the closer to the road it is, the better the grip and the downforce. So Prost now coming to complete.
Not nearly. He's still building up, I think, because that was way off Nigel Mansell's 67.180 seconds. And we are getting an interesting change in McLaren tactics these days. We have traditionally got used to the McLaren team and Prost adopting a fairly relaxed attitude about qualifying in order to concentrate on getting the race set up for their car. That's Nigel Mansell still in his Williams. The McLaren team normally concentrating on getting the race set up right, their belief being that it matters more that you go quickly on race day than in practice. Well, that's all right, provided you're not too far down the grid. But at the last Grand Prix, the French Grand Prix last weekend, for the first time this year, Alain Prost in his McLaren was on the front row of the grid, second to Nigel Mansell. And Prost is going for the British Grand Prix hat-trick of the Silverstone hat-trick of wins tomorrow. And Nigel Mansell is going for another hat-trick. He won the British Grand Prix at Brands Hatch last year, and he won the European Grand Prix at Brands Hatch the previous year. Here he is. Grant Gibson, that's the spare car that Mansell is in. For the first time this year, Williams have got 4 cars for their 2 drivers, and Grant Gibson in the foreground there, the Australian, looks after heads the team of mechanics that look after the spare car. So Nigel's going out to make sure that not only his race car is absolutely au point for tomorrow, but his spare car as well.
It's a busy day with spare cars, because Nelson's out in his spare car as well at the moment, so he's been using that. So Williams making full use of all 4 cars.
So, 4th position on the grid behind Mansell, Piquet and Prost. Senna has already improved on his yesterday's time today, so he's probably on his 2nd set of tyres. We don't know that for sure.
He is on a quick one now too. He's done his build-up for speed, and if he doesn't get held up with any of this traffic that's ahead of him,
Senna will be anxious to get past Philippe Streff in the Tyrrell, which he has done with no bother at all, so that he has got a clear lap in front of him.
Yep.
Drives hydraulic suspension on his car.
Closer to McLaren and Williams, that's Greg Norman in the background, with just behind Nigel,
who is talking to Patrick Head, the gifted Williams designer, who has produced so many race and World Championship winning cars. 1:8.622, Ayrton Senna, slower than the lap that he did earlier today, which in turn was faster than his yesterday's time. So it's still, and we are now on the 27th minute of the 60-second session, as you look at Eddie Cheever in the arrows, in a situation where Mansell holds the pole position, some 0.8 of a second, and there's Berger ahead of Piquet, with Prost in third position, Senna fourth, Farby is fifth, Gerhard Berger, the man you're looking at now, in sixth position in the Ferrari, and then the Benetton of Boutsen, the second Ferrari of Alboreto, Stefan Johansson in what is, to his regret I'm sure, becoming his customary ninth grid position place, and Ricardo...
Front runners, only Piquet and Prost have so far failed to improve on their yesterday's time. Prost still nearly a second off yesterday's time, but not, and there he is.
No, it is
They're
not.
just discussing the settings on the car. It's vital to get the balance absolutely right, and a lot of time is spent, particularly by Prost, in fiddling with the car, with the fine-tuning of the suspension and the aerodynamics to get the car exactly as they want it.
He's not gone raving mad and talking to himself inside his helmet, of course. You can see there's the little radio mast to the left of the steering wheel, and Prost is talking into his helmet microphone to his race engineer, discussing the settings, as James has said, of the suspension. There's nothing to discuss on the tyres because they are using standard Goodyear race tyres these days. Well, can Piquet do anything about Nigel Mansell's 1:07.180 in exhaust of his V6 Honda engine? And it's getting very warm here now. It was almost nippy this morning in shirt sleeves with a fairly stiff breeze blowing. That has disappeared virtually. The flags are hanging fairly limply on their flag poles. And Nelson Piquet now coming down the hangar straight, building up to some 200 miles an hour for Stowe Corner.
Yes, and you've got a good shot then of the quite black, smoky exhaust, and somebody smoking. That's Nakajima making a lot of smoke. Let's hope he's not dropping oil on the track, because that won't help Nelson's cause at all. But they throw a bit of extra fuel into the engine to help with the cooling when they're qualifying. They're obviously not worried about fuel consumption, and so you get a certain amount of unburnt carbon waste coming out, and that's why they get particularly black exhaust when they wind up the boost for qualifying. So Nelson completing his lap.
Into the pits.
He's aborted that and he's come into the pits. So that probably means that he's not entirely happy with the settings of the car, and there is the scrutineering situation.
Let's just explain this, because the cars have a mandatory weight limit, and there is a computerized device which flashes lights at the drivers when their number comes up. They then have to pull into this position here, and a balance device goes under each wheel. They get the weight of the car. The drivers are weighed at the beginning of the season and halfway through the season. They then subtract the weight of the driver from the total weight of the car and driver, which they've just recorded, and can thus find out whether the car is underweight, and if it is, they're in trouble. The device that they were putting over the rear wheels was simply to check that the mandatory height of the rear wing was okay. Senna, and he is looking fixedly and interestedly at the little television monitor, the yellow device, which is propped on his car, obviously temporarily, to see where he is in relation to the opposition, and the answer is still in fourth position behind Mansell, Piquet and Prost, but ahead of the Benetton of Farby and Berger. The cowling, kind of streamlined cowling just over the steering wheel, is an absolutely unique rev counter. He gets a great big bar of light going across that when he's on the move. You can see the figures to the left there. And they go up to a very high figure indeed. The various other devices particularly include the boost control, which enables the driver to adjust his boost pressure, not above the maximum 4 bar, of course. And that table in the foreground is the computer table, which there's Steve Hallam, who is Senna's race engineer, but the man who operates that console, and you can see him moving about there now with the earphones on, is Peter Wright, who is the, I use the word advisedly, to me, genius, who has developed this active suspension system, which is being looked at very interestedly by many of, if not most of, the world's big motor manufacturers. People like General Motors and Chrysler and Volvo are all in negotiations with Lotus to put that suspension system on their standard road-going cars. So here is an example of how race technology helps tomorrow's road cars. The unmistakable nose of Alain Prost, the professor, so called because of his dedicated approach to racing, which does not mean to say that he has not got a very lively sense of humour and delightful personality, because he's got both of those things. And in the opinion of many people, today's completest Grand Prix driver in terms of racing ability and tactical thinking. He's following out the distinctively liveried Benetton of the Belgian Thierry Boutsen, who is in 7th position on the grid at the moment and is yet to improve on his yesterday's time. Here's Boutsen. He's been...
Both of those two are looking to improve on their yesterday's time, both Boutsen and Prost. Most of the drivers have improved so far, but Prost has always tended to come with a late run.
Bearing down on the Benetton is one of the McLarens, whether it was Prost who's just come out or I think it was Stefan Johansson actually from the speed, and in front of him the blue and white Brabham with a BMW 4-cylinder engine. So cool. Thierry Boutsen, who spent some time with the Arrows team using BMW engines, didn't do very well.
Quick. He's in a good car this year. The Benetton is a very, very good chassis. The Ford engine is improving all the time. It's probably not quite as powerful as they would like it, but it's certainly a growing force. Now, Boutsen on a quick one with Prost behind him, also on a quick one, I've no doubt. They've had the time to warm up their tyres, so that's quite nice for Prost. If you've got a car that's on a quick one going a couple of hundred yards ahead of you, it's a nice target to chase.
Prost has got to improve on his fastest time so far from yesterday by nearly 1.5 seconds to be anywhere near pole position, and Thierry Boutsen has got to improve even more, so they've both got a daunting challenge in front of them.
Yes, I'm quite sure Prost will be very happy with third on the grid. I'm sure he's more concerned about just improving his time by maybe half to 3/4 of a second, just to really secure aborted that lap, and Boutsen heading for the pits. Now, is Prost going for a quick one? Well, he's certainly on full power as he went across the start-finish line. Plenty of sparks coming from under the car, running the back of the car as low to the ground as possible to get that extra aerodynamic suction, suck the car down onto the road for more grip. And Prost flat out through the kink, down hard on the brakes, right into Beckett's corner, third gear, and then on full power as he goes out and away down the hanger straight. It's very fast, using all the road and a little bit of run off there. Again at club corner, hard on the power.
Prost's fastest so far, 1:8.577. Nigel Mansell's pole position time 1:07.180, and he's coming up to Capelli in the 3.5-litre march.
And I think Piquet managed to give him some space, so he's all right.
Not quick enough by far.
Well, that's right. Prost struggling a bit, it would seem, at the moment to get at his yesterday's time and improve on it. Remember, of course, so that was an already used set of tyres that he was out on. I think he should still have one new set of tyres up his sleeve, and they do, the first couple of laps of their life when they're brand new, they do give a little bit more grip, just that, and then the edge goes off them as they settle down. Nelson Piquet has had a spin at Beckett's, but is without any due problems as far as we know.
Now, there is also a 3.5-litre category in the British Grand Prix, of course, and just to give you an indication of how much quicker the 1.5-litre cars with their turbos are, there is Prost, who has just gone surging past Streff in the 3.5-litre Tyrrell, and the fastest 3.5-litre car so far is the Lola of Frenchman Philippe Alliot, 1:15.87, which is 8 seconds slower than the pole position currently held by Nigel Mansell.
Yes, on a power circuit like this, the difference is really huge. But of course, come the race, the 3.5-litre cars will be running the same power as they're running today in tomorrow's race, whereas the turbo cars won't, because here at Silverstone, the fuel consumption is pretty high, and they're going to have to conserve fuel in the race, and they certainly won't be able to run at anything like the power settings that they've got today, because remember, of course, that the turbocharged cars have a limit on the amount of fuel that they can carry, and that is 195 litres, and so they have to balance how much power they can run with how much fuel they got there.
Nelson Piquet spinning at Beckett's, and that's what happens. Great plumes of smoke. That's a polystyrene marker. It wouldn't have mattered much if he'd hit it, but here at Silverstone there is bags of runoff space, and Nelson Piquet superbly recovers his spinning Williams Honda and calmly rejoins the circuit. But there is a danger, of course, that he will have flat spotted his tyres and put them out of balance.
Yes, that's absolutely right. When you spin, the correct thing to do is to hit the brakes, and if you're going very fast, you can tyres stay in one place, and they go like goes like a threepenny bit, and you get a lot of vibration. But I would have thought there at Beckett's, it's not really a fast enough corner, and he probably hasn't hurt him.
Well, significantly, here he is in the pits, and he has actually had a new set of tyres put on. You can see them in their heaters there, so the Williams team are obviously taking no chances. And of course, this gives Nigel Mansell an even greater advantage, because he's in pole position, 1:07.180, and the closest to him, Piquet, who has still to improve on his yesterday's time, because that 1:07.596 is the time that Nelson Piquet put up yesterday. And by the way, in the untimed practice this morning, Nelson Piquet was quickest. So, there we are.
20 minutes left in the final qualifying session.
Alain Prost was with Neil Oatley. There's one of the Japanese Honda technicians. Nigel's would appear to be fairly relaxed. He's got his helmet off, out of the car with Patrick Head.
I think he's pretty confident that nobody's...
Good afternoon, Nigel.
Pretty confident nobody's going to have a go at his time, and I think he's quite right to be so. The only person with any real chance of bettering it is Nelson Piquet, and he can wait and watch what Nelson does. Remember, of course, though, Nelson does have one more new set of tyres, which he's got on the car at the moment to use. And there goes Alain Prost, just out of his car and wandering away, maybe possibly going to get in the spare. There's Senna on what looks like a quick one.
Senna in 4th position on the grid at the present moment, 1:08.592. That is today's time. Mansell fastest, Piquet second fastest. Therefore, Williams Hondas first and second on the grid as Senna bears down towards us.
The best that Senna can really hope for is to bump Prost off out of 3rd place. Williams are out of reach. And it still surprises me that Lotus is persevering with this active suspension car in races. I certainly would agree that it's a very interesting exercise to develop the suspension, but when they've got, last year their chassis was very, very good with conventional suspension system, and certainly they are not as competitive chassis-wise with this car as they were with last year's car. So now look at the clock, he's accelerating away towards the start-finish line, and he betters it, and that knocks Prost down into 4th place. Senna bumps him, and it goes into 3rd place at the moment, but Prost, remember, still has one new set of tyres.
Apropos of what you were saying, James, it is absolutely true. I think even the Lotus people would admit that they haven't got the car going as quickly as they would like. But Senna has, as a matter of deliberate policy, committed himself. There's Prost in his spare car. He's obviously either happy with the setup of the race car or alternatively decided that because he's got some sort of a problem, he's going to go for the spare car. Well, we've just had a message, in fact, that Prost is not happy with his race car, so he's going to try and get the spare car set up. But harking back to what I was saying about Senna, he has, as a matter of policy, committed himself to 1987, there he is, to work with the Lotus technicians on the active suspension in order to give themselves a very considerable advantage, they hope, for 1988.
Yes, and that really is a policy with which I would disagree, because I would have thought Senna's main commitment is to winning the World Championship by any means. You don't necessarily get more than one chance, and I would have thought long-term planning, when they've got a chassis that we know to be competitive, it was competitive last year, it seems a strange thing to spend a whole year of actual racing effectively testing.
Well, with some 17 minutes to go, Nigel Mansell is back in the car, and it's going to be very interesting to see whether it is to try and improve on his pole position time in order to put it right out of reach of Nelson Piquet, he hopes. There is Mansell. Or whether he's doing what he did at the Paul Ricard circuit in France last week, and that is to spend the rest of this practice period working on full tanks and getting the race setup of the car absolutely right. Remember, he's got 2 cars, so he may be in the other one, in the spare car, and it really paid dividends for him last week, because he was able to decide that he could do with just 1 set of tyres on a change, whereas Piquet undoubtedly lost the race last week because he decided to change tyres twice. And there is Piquet, second on the grid, still to improve on his yesterday's time.
Yes, he'll be on his final new set of tyres here. Vital to get it absolutely right, the build-up to the quick lap, because you can affect the performance of the tyres by the way you warm them up and scrub them in, and it's vital. So Piquet now will be booting it hard towards the start-finish line to have maximum speed as possible for when he starts the lap, and there goes Piquet. And that was a 7.8, that was a quick lap itself, but not quick enough.
Still not quicker than yesterday either.
And Nigel will be watching the timing board in his car, and he will see that Piquet has not challenged or threatened his situation, and so he'll be feeling very relaxed as far as pole is concerned. I'm sure of that. His big concern now, of course, will be to get everything ready and right for the race tomorrow. So Nelson still giving it plenty as he comes through Stowe Corner, now into Club Corner, using all the roads. So he's going for 2 quick ones on the trot. That's about right for a set of tyres. They definitely lose performance after 2 hard, flat-out laps. Now hard on the brakes, down through the gearbox into 2nd gear for the new corner, which certainly is a tremendous safety improvement. So the car's down at that point. So look at the clock, he's about to cross the sharp finish line. And
That's it, pole position.
Absolutely, that just pips Nigel Mansell. So now Nigel will see that. It's not on the screen, it's just gone onto the screen. So Nigel Mansell pipped by 7/100ths of a second.
And away we go, says Nigel Mansell. Did you see that? He watched the television screen, he saw those figures, 1:07.110 go up on his screen. He gave the finger, let's go, to his team, and Nigel Mansell now, and we are in the 47th minute of this 60-minute session, is going to try to retake the pole position that he has just lost to teammate Nelson Piquet. And the third fastest is Senna, 1 minute 8.181. Prost is down to 4th, Fabi is 5th, Berger is 6th, Johansson is 7th, Boutsen is 8th, Alboreto is 9th, Patrese is 10th, De Cesaris in the other Brabham is 11th, 12th is Nakajima, 13th is Derek Warwick, 14th is Cheever, 15th is Arnoux, Martin Brundle is in 17th place, and the fastest 3.5 litre car is still Philippe Alliot, who is 21st. (159.3 miles an hour), Nelson Piquet's time. And we've just had a message from Frank Williams that Nigel Mansell is on a fresh set of tyres and that he is most definitely going for a quick one.
Oh yes, he'll be. But what we're watching now really is a battle of pride between the two Williams drivers, which of course is a very healthy thing and very entertaining for us, because it's pretty academic which side of the front row you start from, and they're certainly not threatened by any other cars. So we're now watching a personal struggle between the two Williams drivers, and it's a good thing that we've got that, because as far as very quickly around the circuit, whether he's actually still trying to improve on that time or not, we don't know, but he's certainly driving it hard. I would think he's had the best of the tyres by now.
17.180 is his target. Just missed it. Just missed it. Nelson keeping the hammer down. Frank Williams very satisfied, of course, because his two cars are commandingly in the first and second positions on the grid, still ahead of Senna. But there is always the possibility, of course, the way these two are going in the Williams, with a certain amount of personal animosity between them, that, as in the British Grand Prix last year at Brands Hatch, we'll have the marvellous sight of them, two of them going round together, in which case the start of the 6th Grand Prix this year, that he's quite capable of taking pole position, not only capable of taking it, but taking it. Is this going to be his 6th out of 7?
Right, there's Nigel. He started a quick one. New tyres on the car. He's got 10 minutes left of this session, so he's got plenty of time. After all, it only takes just over a minute to reel off each lap, and the tyres will only be at their best for 2 or 3 more laps. So, Nigel, first hard lap as he goes round Beckett's, booting it away down the Hanger Straight.
200 miles an hour here. Stowe corner, which he takes at some 150 miles an hour. Now this is Club, another almost flat out, certainly 150 miles an hour. Now building up to the fastest part of the course, the sweeping left-hander at Abbey, followed by the approach. It's 200 miles an hour here as he comes down towards the bridge and then hooks it down from 6th gear to 2nd. Meantime, Martin Brundle has had an engine blow up in the Zach speed, 17.110, so Nigel Mansell is way off, and Martin Brundle has actually got a fire just beyond the start and finish point. Martin Brundle's Zach speed, that is, inside that white cloud. There is Martin Brundle bursting out of it, and he's not running to get away from the fire, he is running to get back to his pit, ready to jump into the spare car with 8 minutes still to go. And meantime, Martin Brundle rushing to his pit, and Nigel Mansell on another quick one as Nelson Piquet comes into the pits.
Yes, the first lap there was just really getting the tyres absolutely in. They should be at their best now, and he looks to be having a clear run on this lap. Certainly using every inch of the road, the sparks flying out. They run the ride height as low as possible to get extra downforce. Hard on the brakes to complete the lap. That car in front of him should not interfere with this lap as far as slowing it down at all is concerned. So, and not quite. So Mansell did not improve then, and I think he's probably slowed it down. Yes, Mansell, having failed to improve on his time on that lap, has slowed it down to cool the tyres down again and get them back up to their optimum performance. If you run hard all the time, lap after lap, they get too hot, and the compound starts to just be not quite as grippy. And so this is what he's doing. He's slowing it down, cool the tyres off for a lap, and then I'm sure if everything's ready, he's happy with the car, and he's happy that he's got a clear track in front of him. He'll boot it out of the last corner to get maximum speed over the start-finish line, ready to get a real flyer.
This is an interesting aspect of this year's qualifying as Nelson Piquet sits in his car. He will have to go out on the set of tyres on which he did not spin, of course, because I suspect those have got a problem. But an interesting aspect of this year's qualifying is that the drivers can, as James has said, after they've done a quick one, ease off a bit and let the tyres cool down, with the knowledge that because they are race tyres, they can stay out as long as they want. You can come in and change to a new set of tyres and there will be a small improvement, but it doesn't make a lap as he comes from Abbey Curve.
Yes, he had traffic in front of him as he started it, but he was committed, and they all saw him coming and got out of the way, so he's thus far unmolested. Watching him fighting the steering now, going from a little bit of understeer to a bit of oversteer. He slides the car out of Beckett's and now powers it up to 200 miles an hour. Then just a short little dab on the brake pedal at the slow corner. He takes it about 150, powering it out, short straight, and now again just a tiny little dab on the brakes. Bring it back, club corner, taking about 155, 160 miles an hour on the exit. Up now through the flat out Abbey kink. He'll let the car run wide, just put as little load on it as possible. Oh, and a spin from Nigel. So Nigel tried a little bit too hard on that one. Now he may be in trouble to get out of that stuff.
This is exactly what happened to Adrian de Cesaris yesterday, but Nigel.
Oh, that's tremendous entertainment.
That's Nigel's party trick, actually. He does that deliberately at hospitality shows, but not in practice for the Shell Oils British Grand Prix of tomorrow. So Mansell has done what Piquet has done. Let's have another look at that, because see how Nigel Mansell lost it as he came up to the new chicane.
Yeah, he just locked the back a bit. He was still on the brakes as he turned into the corner. The rear wheels just locked up and the back got away from him very quickly, but no harm with that. That's not a dangerous thing to do. There's no danger that he was going to hit anything there. It's a slow corner. The biggest damage will be to the fact that he'll probably think that was the lap that was going to go under 1:07 and regain the pole. By the time they cleaned all the gravel out of the car, and he may have damaged the tyres a little bit in doing that, he may not have time to do it. We have, in fact, less than 5 minutes to go, so Nigel may get 1 or 2 flying laps, but they won't want to let him out until they're sure they've got all the stones out of the radiators and things, because as we've already said, it's only an academic and pride exercise who gets the pole from the two Williamses. It's a long race. Overtaking is not difficult here, and it really couldn't matter less from a race point of view which one of the two Williamses starts from the pole and which one starts on the left-hand side of the grid. And in fact, I think looks like they decided not to bother, because Nigel's out of the car and he wouldn't have time to get back in again if he was going to go out. So that's it. It looks like the front row is settled. Nelson Piquet, for the first time this season, has out-qualified Nigel Mansell, and after his performance at Ricard, he seems to be pretty angry with himself, and that seems to have done the trick. It's given him that little G-up of motivation. He's been pretty cross about criticism he's received, pretty cross with me for me to criticise him there, and so a lot of other people who have also joined in the criticism of all his mistakes at Ricard, but it certainly seems to have fired him up. He's mighty angry, and that an angry racing driver is usually a very fast one.
Just under 4 minutes to go, 3.5 minutes to go then, with Nelson Piquet in pole position for the first time this season, Mansell in second, Senna in third, and Prost is out trying at least to get, there he is, that third position from Ayrton Senna, with a difference between them of about 0.4 of a second.
Yes, this is certainly the only interesting battle left now, as if Prost can regain it, but I don't think we'll have quite the drama that we had with the two Williams drivers, because remember, Piquet's already had a spin in this session, but Prost will not be at all bothered as to whether he's in third or fourth place on the grid. I'm quite sure at this stage he'll be much more interested in making sure he's got his cars right for tomorrow, because remember, he wasn't happy with his race car. I'm not sure whether he's in his race car or the spare at the moment. From this distance, you can't tell the difference, but I suspect, I know he was going out in the spare, and I suspect he's still in the spare car, so he'll be much more concerned about what's going to happen with his race car and which car he is going to race tomorrow than trying to bump Senna down that one place.
With 2.5 minutes to go in this, and Prost coming into the pits, so he's going to be hard put to it to get out in time to do another quick lap to try to improve his grid position. And you look at Michele Alboreto, who at the present moment is only in 10th position on the grid, and it's Nelson Piquet, grid position, pole for the first time this year, ahead of Nigel Mansell, two Williams Hondas then in the front row, Ayrton Senna in third place, Alain Prost in the McLaren, the world champion, in fourth place. Thierry Boutsen in the Benetton is fifth, ahead of his teammate Fabi, and that is very significant. They seem to have got the balance and the tomorrow as Alboreto comes through. In seventh position, the Ferrari of Berger. In eighth position is Andrea de Cesaris's Brabham. Ninth is Stefan Johansson. 10th is Michele, and we've got to change because now in 7th position is Alboreto. He's the man who has improved.
Yes, so he's bumped his teammate Berger, de Cesaris and Johansson all down one by one place.
Just under 160 miles an hour on a slower circuit with slower cars. That is Nelson Piquet, pole position. Looking down on Silverstone, big crowd here today, no doubt an even bigger one tomorrow, and rightly so, to see what we expect to be a titanic battle between pole position holder Nelson Piquet, teammate Nigel Mansell second, then the Lotus of Senna, Prost world champion fourth, and the remaining two for the first three rows, Thierry Boutsen and Fabi, both in Benettons.